Hello, everyone, and a massive welcome to English Drive-Thru, the podcast where we jump into the driver's seat to help you navigate your way through real-life American English conversations. I am your host, Iris, and I am so happy to spend this time with you today as we look at how to handle ourselves in common daily situations.
And I am Ernesto, your partner in this learning journey, and we can't forget our little schnauzer friend Spody, who is right here on his rug and probably dreaming about his next treat as we speak. We are going to tackle a topic today that is a favorite for almost everyone, which is the art of getting your morning brew without any stress.
That is exactly right, Ernesto, because we are talking about ordering coffee like a pro so you can feel completely relaxed next time you walk into a cafe. We want to help you move past those basic textbook sentences and start using the phrases that people actually use in the real world.
We have all been there before, standing in line and feeling a little nervous when the person behind the counter looks at us and asks for our order. It can be a bit intimidating if you aren't prepared with the right words to describe your perfect drink.
To make this as helpful as possible for you, Ernesto and I are going to simulate a real-life situation that you might find in any busy American city. I am going to take on the role of the barista working at the counter, and Ernesto is going to show us how a confident customer handles the interaction.
I am definitely ready to act out this scene, and I even have my imaginary wallet ready to pay for this delicious cup of coffee. Let's jump into the practice sample.
Good morning. What can I get started for you today?
Hey there, can I grab a medium latte with an extra shot of espresso, please?
You bet. Do you want any specific type of milk or any flavor shots in that latte?
Could you do oat milk and maybe just a splash of caramel? Also, I will take that to go.
Perfect. One medium oat milk latte with a splash of caramel and an extra shot, coming right up. That will be $6.50 at the first window.
Here is $10 and please just keep the change. Thanks a lot for the help.
That was a fantastic example of a smooth and natural conversation, Ernesto. Now that we have heard the dialogue, let's break it down and look at why those specific words made the interaction so successful.
I noticed right away that you used a very specific opening phrase by asking what you could get started for me. It feels very inviting and much more friendly than a standard question about what I want to buy.
It really is a staple phrase in the American service industry because it shows that I am ready to begin the process of making your order. It invites the customer to share their needs without feeling like they are being rushed through a boring transaction.
And on my side, I used the verb grab instead of the word buy or order when I asked for the latte. It makes the whole conversation feel more relaxed and like I am just part of the local community.
Using grab is such a common way for native speakers to talk about getting food or drinks when they are on the move. It suggests a sense of speed and informality that fits the vibe of a modern coffee shop perfectly.
I also made sure to specify a splash of caramel because I wanted a hint of sweetness without the drink being overwhelming. It is a very useful word when you only want a small amount of a liquid ingredient.
That is a great point, and I also noticed that you clarified you wanted the drink to go. This is essential information for a barista because it tells them immediately to put the drink in a disposable cup instead of a ceramic one.
If I had forgotten to say that, it might have caused some confusion at the end of the order when I was ready to leave. It is always better to give that information up front so the worker knows exactly how to prepare your order.
One of my favorite parts of our practice was when you told me to keep the change. It is such a classic and polite way to leave a small tip and show your appreciation for the service you received.
It is a very generous way to handle small bills when you're paying with cash at a counter. It also helps speed up the process because you don't have to wait for the worker to count out coins for you.
We should also talk about the extra shot of espresso that you requested at the beginning. Many people don't realize they can customize the strength of their coffee by simply asking for more espresso.
That extra shot really kicks the caffeine level up a notch when you have a long day ahead of you. It is a very common request for people who need that extra boost of energy to get through their morning meetings.
I also liked how I used the phrase "you bet" when you asked for the extra shot. Even though coffee culture is global, this specific way of saying yes is very characteristic of friendly American service.
It makes me feel like my request is no trouble at all and that the barista is happy to help. That kind of positive connection is what makes going to a local coffee shop so much better than using a vending machine.
You would certainly be surprised how much these little phrases can change the energy of the room. When we use natural language, the person serving us usually responds with the same level of friendliness.
It makes me feel much more confident when I know the conversation will flow naturally. I don't have to worry about making a mistake because I have these useful building blocks ready to use.
Another phrase I used was coming right up after I confirmed your final order. This is a standard way to tell someone that their request is being handled immediately and will be ready very soon.
It creates a nice sense of anticipation for the customer because they know their drink is being made right then. You will hear this phrase in almost every diner and cafe across the United States.
We also have to mention the oat milk because plant-based milk has become such a huge trend in the last few years. Knowing the names of these alternatives helps you get exactly what you want without any stress.
Most places now offer several different alternatives like soy, almond, or even pea milk. It is important to be specific about what you prefer so the barista can accommodate your dietary needs or tastes.
The atmosphere in a coffee shop can be very fast-paced, especially during the morning rush when everyone is trying to get to work. Having your order ready in your head before you reach the counter is a pro move.
That is exactly why having these phrases on deck is so helpful for English learners. You want to be able to speak clearly and quickly so you don't feel pressured by the line of people waiting behind you.
When you are prepared with the right vocabulary, you can handle any situation with grace. It turns a potentially scary interaction into a simple part of your day that you can actually enjoy.
I actually look forward to my morning coffee run now because I know I can handle the conversation. It is a great way to practice my English in a low-stakes environment while getting a delicious treat.
It is also worth noting how simple your initial greeting was. Just saying, "Hey," there is a perfect way to start a casual conversation in a setting like a cafe.
It sets a friendly tone without being overly formal, which is exactly what you want in a place with a relaxed vibe. People in America generally value that kind of approachable and easygoing communication style.
You also could have said extra shot or double shot because people use those terms interchangeably. Both tell the barista that you want 2 portions of espresso in your cup instead of the standard one.
That extra energy from the caffeine is sometimes the only thing that gets me through a rainy morning. It is wonderful how a few specific words can lead to exactly the drink you need to start your day right.
Since we are looking for ways to sound like locals, let's go back to that specific line you used because it contains a major shortcut that many learners overlook.
I think you are talking about when I asked to grab a latte, which is a total game changer for anyone wanting to move away from those stiff textbook phrases.
Exactly, and the trick here is the combination of can I and grab, because it acts as a linguistic shortcut that signals you are in a bit of a hurry, but still friendly.
It cuts through the fluff of a conversation and gets straight to the point without sounding like you are barking orders at the person behind the counter.
If you really want to level up that shortcut, you can even drop the can I and just say I'll grab or just a medium latte for me please to make it even leaner.
That is such a pro tip because it makes the interaction feel like a shared moment rather than a formal transaction where everyone is following a script.
It really does, and it works because it mirrors the fast-paced nature of American city life, where everyone appreciates getting things done efficiently and with a smile.
When you use these shortcuts, you are basically telling the other person that you understand the unspoken rules of the environment and you are ready to play along.
Now, let's move our focus to how these phrases we used at the coffee shop actually have a much wider reach in your everyday life, starting with the phrase "get started."
That phrase is incredibly versatile, and you can use it in a professional setting like when you are leading a big meeting and you want to open the floor for discussion.
You could walk into a conference room and say, "Let's get started on the budget review for next quarter," and it immediately sets a productive and organized tone.
It also works wonders at home with your family when you are trying to gather everyone around the table for a big Sunday dinner that you spent all afternoon cooking.
I can just imagine you telling your kids to wash their hands because we need to get started on this roast beef before it gets cold and loses its flavor.
The next phrase I want to examine is a splash of because it is my go-to way to describe, adding just a tiny bit of something to a mix.
It is perfect for those times when you are helping a friend move into a new house, and you suggest adding a splash of color to a dull living room wall.
Or even in a more serious context at work when you are giving feedback on a project, and you suggest that a splash of humor might make the presentation better.
It keeps the suggestion light and easy to digest rather than making it sound like a heavy criticism that the person has to spend hours trying to fix.
Then we have the phrase coming right up, which is something I find myself saying to my wife almost every single morning when she asks for a favor.
If she asks you to find her car keys while she is rushing out the door, you can just say coming right up to let her know you are on the case.
It creates this instant sense of reliability and trust because it implies that the action is happening right this second without any delay or hesitation.
You can even use it with a colleague who asks for a digital file by saying I'll send that email coming right up so they know they don't have to wait.
Speaking of being helpful, we should talk about keep the change, which is a phrase that carries a lot of weight when it comes to showing simple gratitude.
You might use this when you are taking a taxi home after a late night, and you want to thank the driver for getting you to your front door safely.
It shows that you value their time and effort, and it saves them the trouble of digging through their pockets for a few loose coins in the dark.
It also works at a local farmer's market when you are buying fresh produce, and you want to support the small business owner by giving them a little extra.
Finally, we have the phrase you bet, which is perhaps the most quintessentially American way to say that you are happy to help someone with a task.
If a neighbor asks you to keep an eye on their dog for a few minutes while they grab their mail, you can just smile and say you bet.
It sounds so much warmer than just saying yes or no problem, because it expresses a sense of enthusiasm and genuine willingness to be a good neighbor.
Now that we have seen how these phrases live in the real world, let's talk about the subtle shades of meaning that change how people perceive us.
This is where we really get into the weeds of sounding more relaxed versus sounding more polite, because it often depends on the words you leave out.
For example, when you say hey there, it is incredibly relaxed and suggests that you are comfortable in your surroundings and with the people around you.
But if you swap that for a good morning or a good afternoon, you are being more polite and showing a bit more respect to the person you are addressing.
Neither one is wrong, but choosing the right one requires you to read the room and understand the level of energy that is appropriate for the moment.
If the coffee shop is quiet and the barista looks like they want to have a quick chat, then a friendly hey there works like a charm to open that door.
However, if you are in a very professional lobby or a high-end hotel, you might want to lean towards those more polite greetings to match the environment.
The same logic applies to how we ask for things like, when I use the word could in the question, could you do oat milk, which adds a layer of softness.
Using could instead of can is a very common way to be more polite without sounding like you are trying too hard to be formal or distant from the other person.
It turns a simple request into a gentle inquiry, which makes it much harder for the person to feel annoyed if they have to do something extra for you.
Another thing I noticed is how you use the word maybe when you asked for the caramel, which is a clever way to sound less demanding about your preferences.
It shows that you are flexible and that you are leaving the final decision up to the expert who is actually making the drink for you.
This kind of linguistic flexibility is what helps you navigate tricky social situations because it allows you to adjust your tone on the fly.
It is like having a volume knob for your personality where you can turn up the politeness or turn down the intensity depending on who you're talking to.
A very relaxed person might say, "Give me a large coffee," whereas a more polite person would say, "I'd love to have a large coffee if that's possible."
The phrase "if that's possible" is such a powerful tool for being polite because it acknowledges that the other person might have limitations or rules to follow.
It is all about showing awareness of the other person's reality, which is the foundation of any good conversation in any language, including English.
When we get these shades of meaning right, we stop being just students of the language and we start being actual participants in the culture.
I also want to mention how the speed of your speech can change the vibe, because speaking a bit slower often conveys a more polite and thoughtful tone.
That is a great point because rushing through your words can sometimes come off as being impatient or even a bit rude to the person who is trying to help.
By taking your time and pronouncing those key polite words, clearly you are showing that you value the interaction and the person you are speaking with.
It also gives you more time to think about your next sentence, which is a huge benefit for anyone who is still building their confidence in English.
We have covered a lot of ground today, from the quick shortcuts at the counter to the deeper meanings behind the greetings we choose to use every day.
It is amazing how much power these little changes have in making us feel more at home when we are out and about in our daily lives.
Every time you choose to use grab or you bet you are building a bridge between your own background and the local way of life here in the States.
And the best part is that you can start practicing these today, whether you are at a fancy restaurant or just talking to a coworker in the break room.
The more you use them, the more natural they will become, until you don't even have to think about which word to choose when you are in a rush.
I can already feel my own confidence growing just by talking through these examples and seeing how they fit into so many different parts of my life.
That is the goal of our journey together, which is to give you the tools you need to step out into the world and speak with a sense of freedom.
It is about more than just ordering a drink, because it is really about connecting with people and making your voice heard in a way that feels authentic.
We should also keep in mind that being relaxed doesn't mean being careless with your words, but rather being comfortable enough to be yourself.
That is a beautiful way to put it, and it reminds me that every interaction is an opportunity to show a little bit of our true personality.
We are constantly learning and growing, and even native speakers have to think about these nuances when they are in new or unfamiliar situations.
It is a universal experience to want to be understood and respected, and these linguistic tools are the keys that help us unlock those doors.
I am so glad we got to dive into these details, because it is the small things that truly make a massive difference in how we feel about our English.
I feel like I have a whole new toolkit ready to go, and I am excited to see how I can use these phrases to make my next conversation even smoother.
The key is to start small and not to put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect every single time you open your mouth to speak.
Exactly, because even if you make a mistake, the fact that you are trying to use local phrases shows that you are making a real effort to connect.
People really appreciate that effort, and it often leads to much more positive and patient interactions regardless of where you are in the world.
It is all about the energy you bring to the table, and these phrases help you project an energy that is both capable and incredibly friendly.
We have really highlighted how a simple coffee order is actually a microcosm of the much larger world of American social communication styles.
It is a great reminder that even the most mundane parts of our day can be rich with learning opportunities if we just know where to look.
Now that we have explored the theory, let's jump into a few rapid-fire scenarios to see how you handle things when they don't go exactly according to plan.
I love this approach because in the real world you often have to think on your feet and respond to situations that are not found in any textbook.
Exactly. So for scenario number 1, imagine you walk up to the counter and the barista tells you the espresso machine is out of commission for the day.
In that case, I would just tell them it is no biggie and ask if I can just grab a standard drip coffee or a cold brew instead.
Using the phrase "no biggie" is a fantastic way to show that you are a low-maintenance customer who is not going to let a small technical glitch ruin their mood.
It keeps the energy positive, especially since the person behind the counter is likely already feeling stressed about the equipment failure and the long line of people.
Let's move to scenario number 2, where you really wanted that oat milk for your latte, but they have just ran out of it entirely.
I would simply tell them that I can make do with regular milk today, or perhaps ask if they have any almond milk as a backup option.
The phrase "make do" is such a useful tool for learners because it signals that you are adaptable and willing to accept a second-best option without complaining.
It shows that you are practical and that you understand that sometimes things are just out of everyone's control, which makes the interaction much smoother.
For our final scenario, imagine the line is moving incredibly slowly, and you realize you are in a bit of a bind because your bus is leaving in 3 minutes.
I might catch the eye of the barista and politely say I'm in a bit of a rush and ask if my order is coming right up.
Being in a bind or in a rush helps explain your urgency without making it sound like you are being demanding or impatient with the staff's hard work.
It creates a sense of shared urgency where they might prioritize your order just a little bit more if they see you are genuinely worried about missing your ride.
You handled those perfectly, and it shows that having these phrases ready helps you stay cool even when you face a minor hiccup in your daily routine.
It really does feel like having a safety net because you don't have to scramble for words when you are already feeling a little bit of pressure.
Now, let's transition into our final recap of the day, where we highlight the 3 most important things for our listeners to remember as they head out.
The first major takeaway for me is definitely the use of those linguistic shortcuts, like using grab instead of more formal verbs to fit the local vibe.
That shortcut is your ticket to blending in and showing that you understand the fast-paced and efficient nature of American social interactions.
The second point is the importance of adjusting your tone by using words like could or maybe to soften your requests and show respect to others.
That kind of awareness helps you read the room and ensures that you are always striking the right balance between being relaxed and being polite.
And the third thing is never to underestimate the power of those closing phrases like keep the change or you bet to build genuine rapport.
Those phrases leave a lasting impression and turn a simple transaction into a meaningful connection with the people in your local community.
It is so empowering to realize that even a 2-minute conversation at a coffee shop can be a platform for practicing such sophisticated language skills.
When you master these nuances, you are no longer just translating thoughts from your native language, but you are actually thinking and feeling in English.
I feel so much more equipped to go out and tackle my day now that we have broken these concepts down into such manageable pieces.
That is exactly what we strive for here, because our goal is to help you navigate your life with a sense of ease and total confidence.
I hope everyone listening takes a moment to appreciate how much progress they are making even by just paying attention to these small details.
Every little step counts, and the more you practice these phrases in low-stakes environments like a cafe, the more natural they will feel in high-stakes ones.
It has been such a pleasure sharing these tips today, and I cannot wait to hear how our listeners start using them in their own lives.
As we close out this episode of English Drive-Thru, remember that your voice is a powerful tool for connection and growth.
Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a chance to keep improving your English while you are on the road.
We are so grateful to have you as part of our learning community, and we look forward to helping you reach your goals in the next episode.
Until then, keep staying curious, keep practicing your new phrases, and most importantly, keep enjoying the journey of learning.
Safe travels on your language learning path, and we will see you very soon for more real-world English insights.
Goodbye, everyone, and happy chatting as you take these new skills out into the world today.